Well, let's start off this from a rather very sad one. Now, her hopes and dreams were dashed after she lost her husband and 5 children to HIV and AIDS infection. Comfort, their mother, is now the only surviving member with positive HIV status and feels that she has nothing to lose anymore in the world. In a bid to satisfy her sexual crave, she engages in unprotected sexual intercourse with strangers who propose love to her without disclosing her HIV status to them. After the death of her HIV-infected husband, she has had unprotected sex with 10 other men, some of whom are married. Comfort explains in the Akan language why she conceals her HIV status from the men who make sexual advances towards her.
I'm scared that
if I disclose my status to the men, they will sack or quit the relationship with me. And if that happens, they will spread the news in the neighborhood.
I'm scared
that if I disclose my status to the men, they will sack or quit the relationship with me. And if that happens, they will spread the news in the neighborhood.
Well, so that's the sad story of Comfort there. Now, we understand that Akuse Government Hospital has once threatened to cause her arrest if she continues to spread the virus. Joining us for a conversation on this is the Elsie Ayer, who is president of NAP Plus. That's their pressure group for persons living with HIV. Grateful for joining us here, Elsie. Hello, Elsie. Kindly unmute so we can have this conversation. Elsie, I'm sure you've listened to this story. Is this the first time you've heard a story like this, or this is something you encounter in the course of your work?
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for reaching out to me and NAPLAS on this issue. This is not the first time we have heard of people having unprotected sex, and it is wrong because all we are trying to do is to prevent new infections. That is our responsibility as NAPLAS. So we do not condone people who willingly transmit HIV. There is even a law against it. Willful transmission is a crime. So I would start with that. That is the situation.
But
however,
yeah, I'm listening.
However, looking at the situation of this woman, and I'm looking at her as a human being, even when you were narrating the whole story, I was filled with some pain. Because imagining losing your husband and one after the other, losing the children, 5 of them, one after the other. You can imagine the sort of mental anguish she had gone through. And after that, knowing that persons living with HIV, once people know that you are positive, nobody wants to have anything to do with you. And I'm not holding brief for her, but then her survival and everything, I think made her just go, because that was the only way she could get money or whatever to
survive,
take care of herself, to survive. So it was a case of survival, not really intentionally going out. Look, the pain she had gone through, why should she want somebody else to go through same? But then she will want to say, well, the men came, I didn't call them, but it is wrong. So I'll just, that's what I'll just say for now.
Okay. Once you've met people like that, are you able to tell what informs their decision to do what they do? I mean,
it is fear. It is fear, and it is fear of stigma. We all know how HIV came about. We all know what people think about persons living with HIV. And it takes the grace of God for people to rise above, all those, the stigma, all that people say, and move ahead. Self-stigma is something which is very strong. And that is the first thing that all persons living with HIV go through once they test positive. And what they would need to do is to go out of it. But how do we support our communities of persons living with HIV to go through this self-stigma and come out of it, not thinking that you are going to spread it, or people intentionally infected you or anything like that. That is an area that we are looking at, internalized stigma, self-stigma, so that once we help persons who have been newly diagnosed as being positive, to understand what it means and to know that there is a way through, I think they will guide them to take the best decision as they move ahead with their lives and ensure that they get virally suppressed by remaining on treatment.
So what then this means is that we need to check, how people stigmatize against these people. How do we break that chain?
That is a very big issue. I mean, it takes education, but people they've already made up their minds about persons living with HIV. Some people say these people are very wicked, and they made it their aim in life to make sure that they infect as many people as possible. But this is not true. So we need to, the way we break the news to those who are positive when they come to test first, I think it's a starting point. And that is why we have persons living with HIV who have been trained to work in health facilities where antiretroviral therapy is given, so that they use themselves as an example. We use ourselves as an example to encourage people. Listen, look at me. I am positive, but I am all right. And this is what I did. And then we have the patients to listen to them, listen to their fears and all that, and then try to alleviate. But then we continue following up on them so that bit by bit, as they face other challenges or questions, we are able to help them understand and be there for them and remove that stigmatizing behavior. We just accept them as they are, but they have to do the right thing. And I think that is what the starting point.
Okay. But I mean, you mentioned that there's a law that prescribes this, or that forbids someone willfully spreading HIV and AIDS. Now, if that's the case, is it that the people who do that are intentionally do it, and that we could probably describe them as being wicked?
It is just a reaction. It's just a reaction after testing positive. Oh, I got it from somebody, so I'm also going to give it back to other people. Many years ago, over 15 years ago, somebody came from outside the country and rented a hotel somewhere, and that was his duty, to infect as many people as possible. So there were so many women who went there, and he was giving them money, foreign money, you see. So that is somebody who made up his mind he was coming to spread HIV. But then there are so many reasons why people do that, but it is wrong. And if someone is reported and it is found to be that the person willfully, intentionally decided to spread HIV, he or she will be prosecuted. There is a law against willful transmission of HIV.
So in the case of this woman, yes, we understand that she is doing it for survival. But a medical facility has warned her once that if she doesn't stop, they'll report her. Was that a right reaction by the health facility, or they should have caused her arrest?
It is a right reaction, warning her. Maybe she was thinking about survival as we are thinking or talking about, but it is wrong. And we are trying to reduce new infections. And here she was, positively going about, spreading the virus. So she was warned. But I think that the next follow-up is that NAPLAS is in all the regions. And I think that our regional reps and all that are there. So if they had handed her over to them, they would have taken her up. Once we have somebody like that, we don't leave them alone. We follow them, we ensure that they go on treatment, we educate them, we answer their questions, we do whatever we can to support them so that they would be on treatment and be virally suppressed and not spread the virus. So we are currently also looking at those issues and looking at how we can support such persons so that they wouldn't want to look for a means of earning and a living through the sort of means this woman used.
So her situation also brings to the fore the support systems for people with HIV and AIDS. I mean, you've been in this sector for some time. How is it looking like? And what ought to happen to change it for someone like her so that she doesn't feel she doesn't have anybody?
Okay. I want to correct one thing. You've been saying HIV and AIDS. We are persons living with HIV.
Okay.
You hardly see AIDS.
Okay.
If you see that all the time, it means we're not getting anywhere. We've gone very far to reduce people getting to the AIDS stage.
Okay.
So we are persons living with HIV.
Okay.
And we are doing very well to be virally suppressed so that we don't transmit HIV.
Good to
so
hear.
What we are doing now is that we are setting up disclosure teams. It's very difficult for people to get the information that they are positive and then continue living their lives as if nothing has happened. One key thing that has to happen is that you should have somebody that you can share your status with, somebody that you can talk to, somebody that when you feel lonely, you feel, I don't know, then you can call that person readily. We usually put ourselves up, there for such people, but we're thinking that in every facility, you have some sets of disclosure teams who would reach out to that person, talk to him or her, make friends with them, and then guide them. Is there somebody in the family you want to share this with? Is there somebody? If they say no, fine. But then that team will be that person's support for the time being until we see that he or she is feeling much better and ready to take up the reins of their lives and move ahead.
Okay. Which means that this should have started when the news about her husband and children, started coming through. Someone should have been there for her.
Somebody should have been there for her.
But this woman's case is also such that she doesn't have a place to stay. And that's why she was found in a certain place, a certain shelter, and she lost that as well. So I wanted to find out from you, what kind of support systems we could give to people like that? They have nowhere to go. So are there support systems in place already, or should there be one for such people?
Thank you very much. There are no such support systems, but there should be one. And as we are talking now, I am sure my Eastern region now chair of NAPLAS has reached out to that woman. She's a wonderful woman and she does that. That is what we do. I have a number of them at home with me because they were kicked out of home and there was nowhere they could go. And they could do anything. We need that support system. We need support also for children who have lost their parents to AIDS. And they are there and they are being ill-treated, not intentionally, but out of fear that these children may be positive and may transmit or infect people intentionally. Little children, they wouldn't do anything like that. But it is the fear that makes people react the way they do against people living with HIV. But there are no support systems, and that is something that we hope that from this time on we are going to put in place. We're told there are shelter homes for those who face gender-based violence, but there is nothing for people who are neglected because of their HIV status.
So your group, how are you able to come by the people? Because I'm asking this because it looks like you missed that of Comfort.
You think I have met?
No, I mean, do you know Comfort? Your group, are you aware of?
I don't know her. I don't know her. But I know my regional chair in Eastern region. And I'm sure she has heard about Comfort, and I'm sure she's talking to her. She's already reached out to her because she is at Akuse Government Hospital, also providing support to persons living with HIV.
So I asked that question because earlier you said that, I mean, when you are told that you have it, someone should be able to speak to you to get you to understand that this is not the end of life itself. And that's why I wanted to understand, do you know Comfort? Have you been able to speak to her? Because her case is such that she feels she doesn't have anyone, and that's why she's doing what she's doing. So how are you able to track these people?
Just as you have said, when we hear, and I also said that we have our members in almost all the ART centers in Ghana. They hear this, they get this information first, and they reach out to those people. Okay. In the earlier times, we had people called mentors. You bring somebody who you could share your status with, somebody who you are sure would support you. But then some people just go outside and call any passerby and say, please come with me and tell them that you are my brother or my sister, so that they can give me medication. And in the end, the reason for which the mentorship was put in place is not achieved. So our community members who are working in the facilities, who have been assigned to the facilities, are the ones who do that. We have those for mothers of pregnant and lactating mothers. We have some for young people called CATS, and then we have the models of hope, who are persons who are living with HIV, who have taken their medication for long, and many of them are trained counselors. So they are there, and they are the ones who should reach out to such people in such situations. And it's at the health facilities you get them. You know, that is where they come to be tested, and that is where we are also located. And then if we need to follow up at home, follow them up in their homes, we do that. Now,
Comfort looks like she doesn't stay at one place, she moves around. Should the state arrest her to prevent her spreading this to many people?
Or just imagining somebody who is already who is scared of persons living with HIV wanting to go and arrest her. But arresting may worsen the matter. I think that we should build a stronger relationship with the facilities and also with the authorities, the patients and all police, so that they know we have somebody they can call when such issues arise, so that we can reach out to those people and then take whatever steps that we can take to support that person. The person should never think that it is right and it is okay to go and spread the virus. No, it is not right.
So now that she is doing it, what must the state do?
One, I don't know what the states can do, but it is a pointer to the fact that there's a gap. There's a gap. People who are homeless, where would they go? Many of them go to prayer camps. Many of them sleep out in some dilapidated places, buildings which are not right. I think that we need that support for persons living with HIV. We know that usually they are sent out of their homes. We know that. I have some in my house now. So I think that is what we need to do. Okay. And it's happening across the country. So I think that is a structure that we really need to be serious about and put in place.
Elsie, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. So Elsie Aye is president of NAC Plus. This is still the Pulse on the Joy News channel. Now, there's afternoon pressure. It's piling on government to withdraw the value-added tax on electricity consumption. Organized labor today wore red armbands to work as they begin a series of actions to force government to heed their concerns, despite admitting they are here to receive an official communication acknowledging their demand for the withdrawal of the value-added tax on electricity consumption from government. We'll hear from organized labor shortly. First, though, my colleague Kenneth Jesse has been observing the protest in some government offices and has come through with this report.
Organized Labour and ClockSAG have refused to back down on their demands for government to scrap the 15% VAT on electricity consumption. They have hoisted red flags all over their offices, saying that their demonstration slated for the 13th of February still holds if government does not engage them and tell them categorically that they are withdrawing the 15% VAT, which, according to rumors, was agreed by cabinet to be scrapped pending an IMF approval. Now, Organized Labour and ClockSAG are defiant, maintaining their stance that their demand for the scrapping still holds, that they'll only back down if they are engaged by the appropriate authorities and giving assurances that the 15% VAT on electricity consumption will be scrapped. Reporting from the national headquarters of ClockSAG in Accra, Kenneth Jesse for Joy News.
Well, Deputy Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Joshua Ansah, joins us with more on this. Grateful for joining us here, Ms. Ansah. Now, you want government to, withdraw that. We've heard government say that, well, we are ready to engage you to try and get to a consensus. Why are you still then following through with your earlier communicated intentions?
Thank you, my brother, and good afternoon to your channel's listeners. My brother, the matter is very simple. The matter is very simple, as I always say. Government have introduced or directed that they should impose 15% VAT on electricity bills. Organized Labour is saying it cannot afford, it cannot pay, and that government must withdraw. We are calling for total withdrawal and not partial withdrawal. We are calling for total withdrawal unconditionally. And in our statement, we said that if government withdraws totally today, Organized Labour is prepared also to stop its intention of a nationwide demonstration. This morning we woke up and there are rumors in town, there are social media circulating that government met and they said they have withdrawn. Meanwhile, we have not received any official communication from any government, any minister, anybody. So that's what we are waiting for.
Okay.
If we get an official communication from the government, as I speak to you now, you organize an emergency meeting to decide to stop the nationwide demonstration on the 13th. Anything short of that, we are preparing seriously towards the demonstration on the 13th. You can see over this country that we said from today, we're going to be cladded ourselves with red, our offices and wherever you find ourselves. And it's a clear intention that we are serious about what we are saying. And we want to advise that government should, if it is true that they met to decide that they should be withdrawn, then officially they should communicate to Organized Labour. And we also do the needful.
Are you saying there's nothing that can convince you that it is important government does this?
I don't think at this moment it is too late for us to think that way, because there are a lot of channels that government could have used before directing this imposition on us. All those things were not considered. We have the tripartite committee which considers national issues. We have the national dialogue committee there to also do justice to all these things. Government did not do all these things because they've been slapping some of these things on us, and they have got it. I mean, it goes scot-free. I think that this time around they thought it would also go through, but it's becoming too much for workers in this very country, and we think that it is important that we register our protest on this one, so that government does not continue doing some settings on workers on in this very country. Our salaries cannot even take us out of our offices and then to the house. Then we are adding more burden by imposing tax, value-added tax on electricity that we pay, which already include taxes before the determination of tariffs. I think it's not fair to workers in this country. So, my brother, if government communicates officially as you speak now, Organized Labour will reconvene an emergency meeting to change its decision of going on the nationwide demonstration.
Now confirm this for me. So you are saying that as for you, it is withdrawal or nothing else?
Yes. Total withdrawal, unconditional, and nothing else.
Government cannot even try to get you to understand why there is a need for this introduction?
I don't think it is important now. It's already passed. It's gone already. Because we know it's one of the IMF conditionalities. And when government was going to the IMF, Organized Labour kicked against it. I bet I was in that meeting where we told the IMF that we know that anytime you people come to our country, workers suffer. So we don't support our government going to IMF. But the government didn't listen to us and they went to the IMF. And the conditionalities are now rearing its ugly heads in our faces. So I think that it's the time we must also ensure that we don't absorb our shocks are already weak. We can't have any strength again to absorb any shocks again, my brother.
All right, so we are looking forward to, so this red armbands will be throughout the week till Tuesday?
Yes, it's throughout the week. Until Monday, until today's week, then if nothing happens, the following day, Tuesday 13th, you will see the whole Ghana going on massive demonstration in all the 16 regions. We are seriously preparing towards that.
And we understand that you're also planning some series of strike actions if nothing changes after your demonstration.
You are right there. You are right there. And letters have gone already to the IGP, and I'm sure even the regional commanders will also receive theirs today because it is being counted from today up to Monday. Then Tuesday, there will be that massive action.
Interesting. Well, so if you do monitor today, how has the compliance been to your directive?
It is very perfect. This morning, I thought it's a propaganda just to confuse workers because we decided to wear red armbands and the rest. I think that social media information is something. It's a rumor that they want to calm people down, whatever it is. That is why, if it is not true, since morning, up to date, up to as I speak to you, we haven't received any official communication from any government sector. I mean, this is serious. This is strange. So we think that rumor or that social media information is coming from somewhere and not from the government. If it is from the government is expected to issue an official communique to the organized labor.
Do you take it as though government is being insensitive to you because you gave this announcement last week, but they have not done anything in your words, and today you have begun, implementing your decisions? Do you take it as though government is being insensitive to you?
I think so, because it is a surprise that if cabinet have met and taken that decision, what stops cabinet? What stops government? What stops Minister for Information or the Finance Minister or the Employment Minister, who is in charge of employment in this country, to actually write officially to organized labor indicating government position to us? Unions or organized labor are not against the development or are not against paying taxes. But when it's becoming too much a burden to us, we have to stand and speak up to it. That is all what we are doing. Look, today somebody's salary is less than 500. It's something, I don't want to talk about it, my brother. So it is total withdrawal or nothing else. They should withdraw and we also stop our demonstration. Anything short of that, we are preparing seriously towards the total nationwide demonstration on the 13th.
All right. Grateful to you for joining us here.
Thank you, my brother.
So that's the organized labor there. They are embarking on this to protest the imposition of a 15% VAT on electricity consumption. Now, from that, let's talk about the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, because the chairman of that committee, Dr. James Kluche Aveji, is alleging there appears to be a grand scheme within the public service to pay unearned salaries. One of the themes of today's sitting of the committee had been several MDAs paying staff who were not at post salaries running into millions of cedis in total. We'll bring you more of this and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome from the break now. Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, Dr. James Kluche Aveji, is alleging there appears to be a grant scheme within the public service to pay unearned salaries. One of the themes of today's sitting of the committee had been several MDAs paying staff who were not at post salaries, running into millions of cedis in total. James Kluche Aveji says the situation is unacceptable, urging the head of civil service to deal with the issue.
So far, it's this unearned salary is becoming a lot. I think that there must be a grant scheme that is going on in the public service. So the head of civil service must be made to get none of this issue, and then we'll find a way to curb it. Well, you have to continue to pursue the money from you don't have there is not a guarantor here. The families too are not cooperating. Once you report the issue to the Yoko, let's see what Yoko will do.
A member of the committee, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakbo, also claimed it appears officials of the public service collude to pay these unearned salaries and share it.
So the unearned salary infractions this year is simply nauseating. Because they colluded. Last week we found evidence of collusion. They collude, they validate, they take the money, they pass back, they go and collect and share. So somebody should be held accountable.
Well, the parliamentary, the Public Accounts Committee is still sitting, but let's get more of that and more of what's happening in Parliament by speaking to our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, who joins me in studio. Kweku, grateful to have you. Now, what else came up in this meeting?
Well, so a number of key issues today have come up. In fact, there were so many ministries that appeared at the sitting today. And one matter that has taken center stage is the issue of unearned salaries. So many people getting paid for no work done. In fact, there are persons who have taken steady leave with pay. You can't get that here, but in the public service, they get it after 4 or 5 years. They get to go to school for a year whilst receiving their monthly salary intact. It appears so many of them have taken advantage of that. They've abandoned posts and for so many months are taking salaries running into millions of Ghana cedis. And the Public Accounts Committee chairman has not been particularly happy about that. In fact, he has been talking about a certain conspiracy, grant scheme within the public service to ensure that this continue going on, and something that he says the head of the local government service must ensure it ends immediately. No,
but is it part of their conditions of service to have that after a number of years you can't get a steady leave with pay?
Yeah.
To God,
yes, in fact, in the local government service, for instance, if you do 4 years, you can earn a leave with pay, but with certain conditions. For instance, if you go outside to go and study, the expectation is that you will come back and with whatever skills you've gotten, come back to come and serve the country. If it is that you are leaving to study without the intention of returning, then you do not deserve that or you do not have to earn that. And so those persons who actually travel to study and return will actually have that right. But in today's instance, there is a particular lady who actually took study leave, went outside of the country for a year to go and study, has not returned, and for many months was still drawing salaries. Because right after the end of the leave, you are supposed to return. If you're not returning, then you don't have to be paid. But this lady continues to draw salary up until some point that the authorities now realize that this person should not be paid. Then they stop the payment and try to talk to this person to bring the money that she has taken back. And then this lady says, well, I'm now outside the country. I've not even found a job, so I can pay that. And so eventually the committee says these departments and agencies should work with Yoko to be able to either arrest these persons or get them to refund these monies.
So what are the real issues here then? If it is part of my conditions of service to get it after a year, are they looking at those, like this lady's instance, who has completed but has not returned, or they are looking at people who have not served up to the number of years they are deemed to receive these conditions to travel outside? What are the real issues there?
I think ultimately there are MPs who are not really happy with the idea that persons can take a number of years to go and study and be still paid by the government. What they want is that you can maintain your job. You can go out there to go and study for 2-3 years, and you are still an employee of this supposed government agency. But then, when you return, we can resume paying you. Some of them don't like the idea that whilst away, you should be earning that. Okay. But this is something that is in the condition of service. If you want to change it, you'd have to amend the contract, amend the collective agreement. So that is the side. And if you want to do that, you know you have to contend with these labor unions who probably are going to fight you. And then there are those who are really concerned about the irregularities that are so widespread in the payroll system. Because why is it possible that someone travels to go and study for a year, they are entitled to receive their salaries. Right after that, you need to ensure that the person is back and at post. But this person is not at post and they are still drawing salary. And sometimes it goes on for 5 years before the system will detect that, oh, this
when
person
the person
is not at post.
Yes, for 5 years.
And that is the issue that surprises a lot of MPs, because there should be a validation process. Before anybody is paid, someone would have to check the system to ensure that this person is at post, this person is working, and this person deserves the amount of money that the controller is about to pay to this person. There's no one checking that. And so, in some instances, you see that the Public Accounts Committee are really not excited. They have been threatening that these validators, they're going to go after them if they continue in this light. So it's one of the big issues that took center stage on earned salaries. As long as I've been following the news, every year there's payroll irregularities in the country, and these concerns have been expressed quite vigorously at the committee. But elsewhere, one issue that also came up quite strongly is the National Sports Authority boss. Yeah. The last week he was supposed to be there, but we understand he took ill. He was not available. And you know that Professor Chumisi ran in the NPP primaries and actually got only 7 votes. He did not win. And so it actually came up today. The chairman said he was almost about to call him an honorable, but he realized that he just got 7 votes in the NPP primaries. And that was something that he laughed about.
Yeah.
But to the core of the issue, you recall that in December, the Accra Sports Stadium was shut down for football activities and was rented out to Stoneboy and other persons to do events there. Apparently, Stoneboy, for instance, paid 70,000 cedis. The money was not lodged in the account here in Accra. Some of them were lodged in Kumasi. The allegation by people like Sam George is that there seemed to be a scheme to divert some of those funds. Of course, these are just allegations that have not been proven. But the minister was at the committee today and had to answer questions. Says, one, he was not aware of that decision. And
the Minister of Sports himself.
Youth and Sports, Yusuf Mustafa, and that he also did not authorize that. But of course, the National Sports Authority, by virtue of being an authority, can take some of those decisions subject to the minister regulating that. So those concerns were really shared at the committee level to them. People like Sam George will not let anything go. And then ultimately, because of the severe irregularities and infractions that came up from the National Sports Authority, the committee is now recommending to the Auditor General to conduct a forensic audit. So, for instance, there's a pickup belonging to the National Sports Authority that got missing. The understanding is that the pickup was expected to be parked at one particular place. On a certain day, the pickup is not parked there, it's parked at another hotel. And then, on that same evening, there's an armed robbery at the place. The pickup gets stolen. The police move in to investigate. They realize that just on that particular day, the CCTV camera at the hotel is not working. So these are all questions that people are asking, that there appears to be some sort of rot. And that is the word both the chairman and the public accounts of the committee and his deputy, Samuel Atamels, all use, that there's a certain level of rot at the public account, at the National Sports Authority, that they are inviting the Auditor General. Of course, Parliament cannot direct the Auditor General to do anything. So they say we are only recommending to him to take a keen interest as what is going on there. And so the committee has now adjourned today. They don't expect to sit tomorrow. They'll come back on Wednesday. And so tomorrow we go back to the House. We expect to see the more than 30 MPP MPs who lost in the primaries, the 19 who decided they are not going to go. We try and gauge a sense of how the NPP caucus is going to shape up for the next 1 year to be able to do government business. Remember, it's only the deputy speaker that is in the middle. If it's not there, nothing will pass, because when there's any vote on the floor and there's a tie, it is lost. So if you put a tax motion there and there's a tie, it's lost. Everything you put there, if you don't get a majority, you lose it. So you remember when Adjustafo was out of town, government struggled to get e-levy through. And so we have to count on these 30 MPP MPs who have lost their seat to turn up at every point in time. And then last year, election year, government will probably try to put in a lot of things that will give them an advantage election-wise, the ECCI and all of those issues. So tomorrow will be the D-Day to try and see how all those things work.
Did they equate the rot at NSA to the rot at any of the stadia, like Esipon Sports Stadium?
When it comes to Esipon, people, the committee members included, they just can't believe that the Esipon Stadium will be allowed to deteriorate the level at which it's gone to. 2 years ago, the finance minister was in parliament and reported that Esipon renovation was 80% complete.
Yeah.
It turned out that there was absolutely no renovation there. And in fact, if you see an aerial shot of the place, it has just been left to the ravages. The weather is just out there, taking stage of whatever it is that it wants to be done. So there's that. People just don't want to believe that the Esipon Stadium will be allowed to deteriorate this level. If you look at the Cape Coast Stadium, the pitch itself is almost gone off. If you look at the Accra Sports Stadium, Kumasi Sports Stadium, these are all even sports stadia that CAF has adjudged that it is not fit for purpose to be used for CAF matches. The Black Stars cannot even play certain qualifiers in some of these places. Sometimes they have to do last-ditch efforts to try and get it up in stage and in shape for these matches to happen. So the Esipon Stadium is something that committee members are not happy about. But it so happens that the committee members have almost given up, thinking that, listen, these are some of the issues we've been complaining about for so many years. We do not know what exactly is going to happen with it. And some also believe that the National Sports Authority Board is sabotaging the minister. And for instance, the minister issued a directive to the Ashanti Regional Director to be transferred to the Eastern Region. There was a letter to that effect. The NSA boss called the guy and said, okay, you stay opposed, I'll try and deal with these issues. So when it comes to the NSA, power play, a lot of issues. So today they were all sitting side and side at the committee and they had to deal with some of these issues.
They should fix my Esipon Sports Stadium because really that stadium is just dying. And we are all looking on concern because if we are concerned, we will not allow Esipon
to 40
be
million, 40 million Ghana cedis,
I mean,
we should really be moving to fix that.
Anyway, stay with me, Kweku. And tomorrow morning, MPs will return to the House for the final year of their 4-year term, as you heard Kweku say there. Now, some of them have lost their seat because they lost the bid to run again in the December elections, and others are not returning at all because they decided not to run. So how will those MPs function in the House? First, let's get a sense of what ahead in Parliament this year. We'll be joined by MPs Kennedy Osei on the MPP majority side and Murtala Mohammed with the NDC minority group. But before that, take a look at how the primaries in the NDC and MPP resulted. Now, we have 275 MPs in total. Out of that, we have 138 for the MPP because the independent decided to work with the MPP. So they have 138. And the NDC has 137. This is a tight one. That makes it a hang parliament. Now, we have, out of that, we have 19 of these MPP MPs who have decided not to return to Parliament. They decided that they've done enough. They won't contest again. 19 of them are bowing out of Parliament. So they knew their fate before their primaries. Now, when the primaries happened, we had 28 of these certain MPP MPs who also lost their bid to retain their parliamentary candidature of their party for the 2024 election. So it means that these 28 are also not returning. So we have 28 of them plus 19. That is a 45, yeah? 28 plus 19. 47 of them. They won't be returning to Parliament. Now, from the NDC side, 17 of these people who also went into primaries to try and win to represent their parties in 2024 election also lost. So 17 of them lost. We're also aware that some of them also voluntarily decided that they will not return, you know. So somebody like James Klucha decided that I've done enough, I will return again, you know. Now, if you add those numbers together, we have around 64 experienced members of Parliament who will not be returning to Parliament in 2025. You know, that's the number, staggering. Around 64 experienced members of Parliament who will not be returning. So on the 6th of January, when they converge to be sworn in, these people will not be part.
In fact, there are a number of them who will also probably lose their seats.
Exactly. So we know that
100.
We know that before the election we have around 64 who will not be returning. But when we go into the election proper itself, more Because definitely there will be some casualties as well, you know, who will also lose their seat. So you expect that more than 64 of these MPs will not be returning. That's huge. Now, because until still, you know, in studio, let's understand how this really means for the House to have this number not returning.
The number is huge and it's catastrophic. In fact, if you look at Parliament and the way they work, it's only a few people that do the work. The front bench, the guys, the two benches behind them. So these are the extended leadership, the minority leader, the majority leader and his deputies, whips. Then you are the chairman of the committees and the ranking members. These are the guys who do the core business in the House. Other MPs, of course, they support them at the committee meeting and all that. But when it comes to the floor, these are the persons who do it. And if you look at the casualties, I'm looking at the MPP list. In fact, the graphic said 28. I have 30 here, so there's been an update, 2 more people. Some of them are really senior MPP MPs who are the heart of it. If you look at the majority front bench, for instance, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu himself is not coming back.
Yeah, he's not. Right?
Then there's a Fenno market. And Oseche Mensah-Bonsu has been almost a permanent fixture in terms of NPP leadership since 2000. He has been in the front bench. So you take that guy's wealth of experience out and you know that caucus is going to struggle. Then you see Joseph Kujo, for instance, one of the guys who was always tend to when it came to finance matters. Unassuming on the floor, but whenever any issues came up, the two sides all defer to him and say, okay, let's listen to Joseph Kujo. He's not going to come up again.
Because when it comes to finance, Joseph Kujo is one of the few fine brains the country has when it comes to finance. So obviously.
There's that. There's Amankwai Siama, the chairman of the Education Committee. There is Erickson Abaka, deputy ranking on Employment Committee. So very key and crucial people.
Sarah Adjoasafo,
who is now the deputy ranking on legal constitutional affairs and has also been in Parliament for 3 terms prior to losing this. So that's about everything that you can take away from Adjoasafo's absence from the House. She's still a really experienced MP who has served in the front bench before. In the last Parliament, he was the deputy majority leader. So clearly, these are big losses for Parliament. And Parliament would like to pretend like that wouldn't matter, but it would. Because if you look at the way Parliament works, it takes 2-3 years for you to socialize. When you are a new MP, you are at the back, you are behind the pillars, you are not even seen. Before you get to learn the entire standing orders, to be able to stand up on your feet on the floor to act, because Parliament is about the rules. You can be making a good point. If you offend the standing orders, all of that goes down the drain. So people have to learn all that, the ropes in the House. The committees, how do you do this business? How do you do all that? It will now take a lot of time to do all that. But of course, there are those who argue that the people have to decide. It's the Ghanaian people who have to decide that these are the persons who represent us. They represent our interests best enough. If they don't think so, they vote against them, whether they have experience under their belt or not. But truly, from the 7th of January 2025, Parliament will have a lot of work to do because there will be a few experienced hands. At least if you look at from conservative figures, there could be at least 120 new MPs on both sides. 120 fresh who have not had any experience in Parliament coming up to the floor. And that is really something big that the House has to deal with. You
spoke about the interest of Ghanaians. Unfortunately, this one has to do with interest of a few delegates.
Who have to take a fridge or some cities and decide.
And then the entire constituency.
Then they decide on the quality of persons that the generality of people can decide. So only the people that the delegate decide on are those people that the people can decide on eventually. But the NPP in particular is something I think you should put to Honorable Kennedy Osei-Nyako, because if you look at from now till the House adjourns, Synod, maybe in November, late November, how are they going to try and get all their members to be on the floor every time to be able to prosecute business? If they don't get that, the majority are just going to wipe them on the floor.
Okay. Now, let me bring in Honorable Kennedy Osei-Nyako. He is on the line with us. Also, Honorable Mutala Mohammed is also joining us. Grateful to you, gentlemen, for joining us. Let me start with you, Honorable Kennedy Osei-Nyako. How did your side react to the sort of casualties that you recorded in your in your primaries?
Well, thanks for having me on your show. It is very sad and unfortunate that we are going to lose a lot of experienced hands from the next parliament, which I think is something that we could have, as a party, could have worked around to keep some of the experienced hands. But that is where we find ourselves now. So we cannot cry over spilt milk, so we have to work hard to see how we can maintain the seat of those experienced ones that are left in the House. We work hard to make sure that they're able to win the election. I think that is the most important thing that the party must focus now, because we can't afford to lose more of such people for parliament, then it means they've depleted the majority or the MPP side with those experienced people, and it's going to be very, very tough for the party in parliament. So I think it's something that the party, I'm sure they are working on it to ensure that we don't lose more of such experienced hands during the December 17th election. So that is where we find ourselves as a political party, and I'm the first belief that if we put more effort and time to it, working hard to ensure that we are able to maintain or keep those people, we will be able to do that.
So I mean, once the election ended, I'm sure moves have already been started to try to put the party in shape so that, you know, like you said, you could bridge the gap in terms of the experience that you'll be losing. What has so far been done amongst you, the members of parliament yourselves?
Well, you know, we went on break in December. We went for our primary. We'll be back tomorrow, so I'm sure there will be a caucus meeting. As I speak to you, we are having a caucus meeting to. I don't know what the agenda will be, but we've been invited for that caucus meeting, and I'm sure some of these issues will be discussed. And I think the mother party, in the course of also our meeting, this meeting will also have the opportunity to invite the MPs, especially those who have lost their seats and those who did not even contest at all. They will have the opportunity to meet with them and discuss and maybe streamline a few things to see how they can bring all of them forward. But I'm sure by tomorrow when we get to Parliament, we'll be able to know the direction in which the party in Parliament will be taken from where we find ourselves at this moment.
There's also another bit, but people are talking about, you know, how your side will be able to hold the fort, you know, for this year. Because you have you'll be going on recess in somewhere in November, but you need to get your members to be able to do government business. The question is, how are you going to do that? Because if I know I won't come back to Parliament, definitely it would affect my commitment to the House as well.
So it is in their own interest. Those, especially those who lost their seats, and even those who decided not to do contest at all, it will be in their own interest to work hard to ensure the party is in power. Then they can be assured of also still being in government or getting some kind of work to do. So if they go and sit unconcerned that because they lost their seat or because they did not contest the case, so if the party didn't go to opposition, they don't care about it. That is where the problem, that's where I'll have that kind of challenge. But it will be in their own interest to come together, for us to work together to be able to win the 7th December election. And I know I've spoken to most of my colleagues who lost their seats, and they are determined and poised to ensure that they will all commit and work together to make sure we win the next election. So they can still have something to do. So that is the focus now. I know, like you are saying, it's a concern. It might be a concern that the government business will suffer because of those people. I mean, at the initial stages, you find that kind of issue. But as time goes on, it tends to be built, and we'll find our full balance and we'll work together. So I don't think this is going to be any serious problem or challenge. It depends on how the party in Parliament keep them together and give them that kind of assurance and security that if we work together and win the next election, then they will still be in government. That will also push them to also support government business to make sure. So that is what I think the party has to work on it to ensure that we are able to keep them.
Let me bring in Honorable Murtala Mohammed here. Now, Honorable, I'm sure that this is quite good news for your side, because you know that in the next Parliament, the other side will be a little weakened because you have experience on your side, which you can use against the other side. How are you taking it?
Well, absolutely far from that. It's not good for easy. And then, logical for us that would be effective of the president. That's why the fact we represent in Parliament, our collective body, to ensure that the decisions we make that are equal on principles, on staff for this country, and decisions but it can protect. So apart from anybody at the end is thinking of this. I went in the Sixth Parliament. Remember the first I wasn't there and I had to come to Parliament. And I remember in the Sixth Parliament, quality of it at from both the lives of Banging and
But Honorable, I really want to follow what you say. You're telling us, but unfortunately the line isn't quite good. If you can reposition yourself a bit.
Is it okay now?
Let's try, sir.
Is it okay now?
Let's try.
Yes. So I'm saying that I went to Parliament in the Sixth Parliament. In the Southern Parliament, unfortunately, I wasn't there. I'm back to the Eighth Parliament. And I'm saying that in the Sixth Parliament, the quality of members of Parliament from both sides was tremendous. I mentioned something made of Dr. Umbo, Papu Kuma, Military, mentioned them. Even the current speaker was also a member of Parliament, Honorable Arun, Honorable Chairman Sabonsi, and you can mention the quality of the presentation we had at the time. Yet still, the 4 years was not enough for me and my colleagues who were first-timers in the Sixth Parliament to grasp the entire work of parliamentary proceedings. So you don't need, it said once and sometimes 2 times may not be adequate for you to have a full appreciation of parliamentary proceedings and parliamentary work. Despite your level of education, it doesn't still matter. You need some time. And I'll give you an example. If you take Honorable Mutaka, he's a lawyer, but he tends to appreciate parliamentary proceedings and law than even those who are in parliament the first term or second term, and they are even lawyers. So it is going to be used. Another worrying aspect of it is that the conclusion we are all arriving at or drawing to is based on the number of quality of MPs who may not have the chance of coming to parliament because they either lost in the primaries or some of them decided not to run again. The possibility of the few quality ones and experienced ones we have going into the main elections and losing is also very high.
Yeah.
It's also very high. So we are coming to this conclusion of getting worried about lack of experience and the quality we're losing based on those who are out now. Because those who decided not to contest and those who lost their parliamentary primaries, both in the NDC and the MPP, is giving us the award. But the general elections is yet to come. And in the general elections, some are going to lose again. And for me, that is a fully worry. On my way to the north, I met the majority leader at the airport. And I said, I am worried that people like you are not going to come back or are not coming back to Parliament. And that for me is extremely worrying because frankly, even those of us who are in our second term, who would humbly admit that we have not had a full appreciation of the work in Parliament, then how about those who come the first time? So assuming we go into the general election and the few experienced ones we have lose their election, and all those who are coming in are new, it doesn't matter the PhDs they have, it is going to be extremely difficult for them to have a full appreciation of the parliamentary rule. And that for me affects our democracy. Because the democracy we have is young, it is the interest of everybody that our democracy grows. And one of the most important arms in a democracy is the legislature, not even the judiciary. Because even in the dictatorship, you would have the executive and the judiciary. What is stands for non-democratic government is parliament. So if the parliament is weakened, it shouldn't be it shouldn't ignite the happiness of any political party. You see your opponent or the opposing side having just fewer members of parliament, little quality or little experience. Even our work is not going to be good for us, despite the fact that we are a political party. I think that the interest of the country is very supreme.
But what do you think could be causing this? Because you are worried that the leader isn't coming back. I am sure certain factors would have influenced his decision to say, I am not coming. What could be this underlying factor or factor such that if we don't address, probably it won't be good for our democracy, as you say?
Internal politics, and for me, that's what is even worrying in this our politics is the use of money. We all saw what happened. The extent that you have sitting member of parliament who participated in the NPP parliamentary primaries expressing his frustration publicly. I'm not saying that the use of money is limited to just the NPP, even the NPP family, but the level of money that was being used by our colleagues in their families is mind-blowing, completely mind-blowing. If members of parliament could give 10,000 Ghana cedis, fidelity, motorbike, how much is a motorbike, how much is a plasma tube, and in addition, can give 5,000 Ghana cedis. So if you have 1,000 delegates, and you have to give each delegate 5,000, you're talking of 500,000. 500,000 should have put up at least a school, dig a lot of boreholes.
Yeah, that's true.
So unfortunately, and the other time I was listening to your colleagues discussing how much MPs are paid, and they did the calculation, and that the entire year, this is the total amount of money MPs are paid. So if MPs could spend that money, why are they getting the money? And I wanted to even make some corrections. The gross figure which was quoted, the salary of your driver is out of it, the car loan is out of it, your car maintenance is out of it. So at the end of the day, you take less than 10,000. And such an MP will go to contest primaries and will spend that amount of money. The question is, where did he get the money? Where? So, the NDC attempted, broadening the electoral, the electoral base of our party in 2016. And I don't know why we're chicken out. If we can make it mandatory, all the political parties, that every card-bearing member of standing, and of standing here, who pays his dues adequately, should be allowed to participate in the parliamentary primary. For me, that is the only way we can cut down this money crisis. Because take Tamale Central, for example, if you have over 100,000 voters, and the NDC can vote of over 60,000 to 70,000 voters. Now, assuming that we even have 20,000 registered voters in Tamale Central who are NDC card-bearing members of standing, the 20,000, we'll be able to bribe all of them. You will not be able to do that. But I think that if we could make it mandatory by the political party to broaden or expand the electoral base, for me, that will reduce that. Either in that country, you'll find all manner of people getting to parliament, and those, some of them could be criminals, and we have seen in this country a member of parliament who was convicted for dealing in drugs while he was still in office as a member of parliament. And lest I forget, when that same person wanted to contest the parliamentary primary within their own party, there were people who raised red flags and demanded that he must not be allowed to do that. But he got a chance to contest because he had money, unfortunately. And this can permeate through the body politics of all the political parties, not just NDC. And for me, that's worrying.
Honorable Kennedy, I'm sure do you accept this, that probably we should look at how we can take away the monetization of our primaries, like the way it is happening? Do you go with a suggestion that Honorable is having, that probably we should broaden the electoral base?
Well, it's a concern that all of us, not only the political parties, are complaining about it. Every Ghanaian is complaining about it. That it's gradually becoming a problem for elections in this country. And if care is not taken within the next 4 years, it's going to be very challenging and dangerous for the country. So I think it's something that folks with the two major political parties, NDC and CP, will have to sit down and find a way to streamline or amend our constitution to make a way where this money issue involved in electing our leaders or whoever is being going to be there's going to be election, or find a way to deal with it. Because we are not able to deal with it. It's becoming more expensive for people. It's becoming more expensive day in, day out. Because even if you decide that you yourself, you are going to contest, but you are not interested in drawing out money to anybody or giving anything to anybody, the opponent will do it. And you know what the outcome will be if you decide that, okay, I will say I'm not interested in paying anything. So you see, even the quality of leaders that we will attract, we will get to come and support or help us in parliament or wherever position, that political position that will be losing them because such people may not have that financial strength to. So it is something which is very worrying. And I think we should use this opportunity, the two political parties, bigger ones, to sit down and see how we can bring reform. Sometimes it is the party executive, let's say the wards and the police station executives that poses this kind of challenge because we will need them to amend your constitution. And if the current status quo favors them, it becomes difficult for them to accept whatever reform. But I think it is time for us to find a way and bring new reform. How does the Americans and the UK, let's say if you go to UK, how do they do it? They've been able to manage to do it successfully, electing their people to go and represent them. So if they are doing it devoid of any inducement of financial influences and all those things, then we should be able to learn the good side of it and be able to implement it because we cannot continue this way as a country. I'm sure we will not have any democracy. If this is how our democracy we are going to continue with it, then we will not, in the next 4 years, there won't be any democracy at all. Because people with big pockets will now come in and sweep up and take over our political leadership in this country. And it's very, very dangerous. So it's something that we have to sit up and start working. Well, my colleague Muntala has suggested that we should expand, but I don't believe that expanding the electoral college necessarily goes to limit this issue. How does the UK, if you go to Labour, Conservative, and all those, how do they do it? If you go to America, the Republicans and Democrats, how do they do it? I think there are some best stories that that are there that we learn from. So why are we not learning it? And we have made every point, every selection of our candidates, we made it through election. And when the ones you make it through election and become competitive, people will look for the resources and come and dislodge people. So that is a concern that all of us, I don't want us to limit or leave it for the political parties alone to deal with it. It's a national issue and we have to address it with it now. Because if our inability to deal with it now, it's going to be very problematic and it's going to pose danger for the country in the few years to come.
Once you all agree, and all of us do agree that it's a problem, will it be far-fetched if there's a legislation to probably regulate that? Can it be done? Or
we have to. If we have to make that legislation, then we have to. Because if that is the only way that we will be able to minimize this issue, then we have to do it. We don't have to waste much time on it at all. Because the longer we stay keeping on this thing, the serious consequences we are going to face as a country. So if we have to start a legislation to make sure we are able to deal with this cancer, we have to do it now. There's no other time to do it than now.
I mean, you can start that with a private member's bill.
Well, I mean, whichever way we want to deal with it, I think we have to deal with it. Whether through private member's bill or whether through a legislation being promoted or being pushed by the executive, whichever way we want to do it, let's deal with it. The most important thing is bringing something to deal with, to address the issue. The current problem is what I am interested in. How in the form that comes, it's not much concern to me, but how to deal with it to make sure we are able to eradicate or minimize this, and this is the most important thing to me.
Honorable Mutala, I've heard other school of thought suggest that in a way to keep experience in the House, maybe MP should be giving a certain defined term. So, for example, a member of parliament is allowed to go for, say, maybe 12 years or 8 years. Is this something that we could consider in a way to probably keep experienced hands in the House?
Of democracy. I mean, that may amount to autocracy because in political parties, people have the right to determine who represents them. The right of representation is not determined by the party, it's determined by the people for whom the representation is going to be done. I get on saying. So, for example, if a member of parliament who is so experienced in parliament and the party thinks that the quality of representation is good, for parliament, for governance, architecture, for the party, yet that person doesn't represent the people well. So who determines who should represent them? It is not the party, it is not the government, it is determined by the people.
Okay.
So if we want to have a legislature that says that every member should serve at least 3 terms before the party can consider having internal elections to elect that would defeat the whole business of democracy. When I made the earlier point about expanding the electoral college, I participated in the NDC parliamentary primary for the 2012 election, and I participated in the 2016 election. And I just supposed the money I spent as a participant in both elections. Because the 2012, we went through primaries, and I contested the NDC parliamentary primaries in Nansong. And I know how much people spend. And I just suppose that with the 2016, where the party, or when the party expanded the electoral college, we didn't spend that much. Because clearly, you cannot spend that much because the members were in thousands. So for me, there's evidence that the system the NDC implemented for the 2016 primary really helped reducing the amount of money MPs and MPs or would-be MPs would have spent. So there's evidence. But again, another point has to do with the recommendation of the Constitutional Review Commission, where it was recommended that we should delay or virtually, untie the hands of the president to appoint his ministers, not limited to just having members of parliament, virtually constituting more than half of the ministers in any government. Because you see, many people contest to be elected as members of parliament, not that they have a yearning desire to represent their constituents, but they see the MPship as a route to becoming ministers. And for me, one of the challenges we go through is occasioned by the entire constitutional setup. Frankly speaking, if we do so, and that would ensure even some level of independence of the legislature. If we do not do that, you find members of the legislature who are also members of the executive. They take decisions at cabinet. They can come to parliament and be seen, opposing the decision. And sometimes you find ministers of state who are members of parliament who may not be able to ask their colleagues questions on the floor of parliament when they come to respond to questions. Because if you ask such a question, you will be considered as either wanting to frustrate and embarrass your government or someone who is a dumb because a lot of the decisions emanate from cabinet before they come to parliament. All of those things indeed affect the quality and the efficiency and the effectiveness of our legislative work. And to be very honest, with my experience as an academic who is working on the legislature, there is plethora of literature that suggests that our constitutional arrangement is a danger to our democratic governance, more so the independence and the oversight responsibility of the legislation going forward. So I think that we should have the courage to implement at least some of the recommendations of the Constitutional Review Commission. If we are able to do the assessment, we'll be able to reduce some of the difficulties we have in terms of having our parliamentary election. Because frankly, if you have the legislature being completely insulated from the shackles of the executive, then you find genuine members who want to be elected as members of parliament, who represent their conscience. Another very point, this is my last one, is we still do not understand the work of the legislature. If you come to our conscience, we have become agents of development.
Yeah.
That is not our responsibility. And I have even proposed that if that is the case, then government should give members of parliament a budget line for projects. We execute the project. The Auditor General audits the account that is given to us. And if there are consequences, we pay the consequences. But if you look at MP, the Tamale Central Conference, and my friend will tell you that, an account that is opened in the name of Tamale Central, I am not a signatory to that account. My colleague is not a signatory to the account of his constituency. Yes, you need to approve to the people.
But that is born out of the sort of promises you members, when you were a parliamentary candidate, gave to the people. Because you stand on campaign platforms and say things you know do not lie within your realm. You do that. So you invite the fight onto yourselves.
Well, some of the promises that members of parliament make when they are contesting for elections, but perhaps may be promises made by their mother party. For example, you have a candidate who is contesting an election as a candidate on the ticket of a particular political party. That party has a manifesto. The party promises that this community we are going to build roads, we are going to provide potable water. The MP comes to that community with the president or his presidential candidate. Then the MP takes the very promises that are made by the presidential candidate. It becomes promises made by the MP. And that is why he is going forward. I didn't the promises. But it is not just me. It is many other people. So when I hear people say, MPs make promises, and when they are being haunted by those promises, they try to find excuses. A lot of the promises are occasioned by promises that are made by their political party and their flag bearers. But what I just want to say is that today, you find roads that are not constructed in some consensus, and people will demonstrate against the MP. They will not demonstrate against the president. You find potable water, which must not or may not be the responsibility of the MP. People will demonstrate against the MP and not the central government. So we need some reorientation and education about what the responsibilities of members of parliament are. And I admit that some of us too, we make promises that we know we cannot fulfill. And when you do so, there will be pressure on you to act based on the promises you make. Frankly speaking, we need to take a second look of the entire democratic and constitutional architecture of this country if we really want to avoid some of these problems.
Well, Honorable Kennedy, before we wrap up, I want to find out from you, from the experience from this primaries, this last primaries, would you back calls by some quarters that maybe parties should start protecting some experienced MPs just so you can keep that experience in the House?
We have tried several times to find a way to protect those experienced hands in Parliament. That has not worked out because many of the people believe that once it's a democracy, you cannot prevent anyone from contesting any seat that the person want to contest. And therefore, the moment you start doing that, people start going to court and there become so many litigation in the party and people going standing on independence and all those things. It becomes a problem. We have tried it before. So I think it is only through reforms that we'll be able to make some of these proposals workable. Once we are able to reform our constitution to make sure that we have a way of selecting our parliamentary candidates, then we are still going to face with this problem. The problem is the election that we always put our minds on. Selecting doesn't mean election. And that is what the two parties are failing to understand. Now, when we talk about a selection or election in the democratic setup, we are not saying that it should be through election all the time. It should be some selection and consensus building. And if you are not able to do it, because if you sit down and you allow a potential, spend a lot of money, go around in the constituency, engage people, and last minute you want to call the person to step aside or step down and allow the incumbent to go, what do you think will be the outcome? Certainly there's going to be chaos. So until we are able to put some kind of reforms together to ensure that it is not always going to be about elections, but it will be through either selection or consensus building. Where we have to do elections, we will do it. Where we have to do selection, we will do it. Where we have to build consensus to get candidates to go on a certain number of terms and other people to come in, we have to do it.
Okay.
Until we are able to use these three mechanisms to deal with the issue, we'll continue to be here. We'll come back here next 4 years, talking about this problem. So I think we have to be bold enough. The parties, the bigger parties, should be very concerned and bold enough to say that enough is enough. We are going to introduce reforms to address this issue, and I'm sure we will be able to deal with the matter.
Okay. Honorable, I'm grateful to you. Honorable Kennedy Osenyako and Murtala Mohammed, I'm grateful for joining us here on The Pulse. Now, away from that, scores of residents have been left homeless as over 52 structures have been swept in a further gutted Ayigbe town, a suburb in the Tama metropolis. Eyewitnesses say the fire gutted a wooden structure Sunday night after a young man tried connecting a regulator to a gas cylinder close to an open fire. Here are some of the affected residents recounting the incident to Joy News.
My brother went to fill a cylinder. So when he came back, he commanded the cylinder. He's trying to fix the burner, but someone also was using cooker to cook. So through that, then the fire started. The cylinder get fire, then everything just start from there. So far, this morning, since yesterday, we tried to get them, but we cannot get them that night. So this morning, fire service people help. We get to the leaders, even the MPs, our PC, then everybody, they are here. They promise to help, so that those who didn't get place to sleep yesterday, the whole night we worked towards that, and we locate them to our friends, then warehouses, church premises, and all those things. So we are still on. Anybody who have this thing that he want to support, we are willing to get to the person and appreciate whatever he have for us. So,
around getting to 7, almost 6:40 more. No fear na menya call na omu yedede. I said my be boy. How happen I started me mirika. Baby I be one any hase no. Me mirika e ba say me hwese de me banagasa from kwan no ho no. E wusa eja na e dere wa hase no. Enya adeketoa. Nti e ba no so me ba nsa me frɛ fire service for me frɛ me ba me no nyina fire service nya bedu pepepe. Ne ba beto eja no so a na nya eja ketoa. Na me ni ko nya eja ketoa. Nti fire for no so ba be boy pa. Yeah, so maybe bisa say there na see no mcheche me say obi ko fele gas so buy no na obi so enu aduane o kopot me won nchen say all the benanity nation no say leakage kakra bi fi ho na ejani to yeah ti guy na say ejani to no ye mu hye no fa cylinder no say ka ko be try so be dum na ejani hye no to ye no sadi ni na butu ye ase na ejani dem na ta so wudin chacha ni mana eja to no.
Now, confirming the incident in an interview with the press, the public relations officer for the fire service in the Tamil region, Ebenezer Yenzu, cautioned residents to observe safety standards when handling gas cylinders.
Had it not been for the timely intervention of the fire department in the Tamil region, we would not have heard of a good news yesterday in the evening. We had a distress call that there was a raging fire at a place called Ayigbe Town in Tema Community 8, and it involved wooden structures that were used as dwelling places. We quickly had to mobilize some men to the scene due to the incessant calls that we were getting. So we decided to move multiple vehicles so that we could be able to attend to it. And so we had 2 fire engines and a water tanker moving to the scene, which helped us to be able to contain the fire from spreading to other sources as well. In all, there were about 52 wooden structures that were affected, and we were able to salvage over 100 wooden structures as well, and a warehouse that belongs to a construction company that was adjacent these wooden structures. No casualty was recorded in this incident, and there was no death as well. No casualty in terms of injury or death. And again, what we want to implore on the people is that the fire service is doing its bit to ensure that we keep our community safe. we had been at that very premise or that particular wooden enclave, wooden structures enclave, somewhere last year to educate them and to let them know the need for them to keep themselves safe. But it's quite unfortunate this incident has happened. It happened yesterday. The people themselves can attest to the fact that since we came, it's been a very long while they had an incident at that place. It's reduced as compared to how frequent fires used to happen there. But we'll again investigate the cause of the fire and ascertain what exactly brought about this fire and advise them further on the need to keep themselves safe, especially during this Harmattan season. We would want to advise the general public that fires are on the rise during this Harmattan season. The humidity level is very, very low, and we want to plead with every citizen to be very wary when you are dealing with sources of heat, be it matches, be it candles, from your gas cylinders, anywhere that heat sources can be produced.
This is still the Pulse on the Journey channel. Now, let's return to our earlier story about a woman who has HIV, who's spreading it to other people because she does it to say thank you for some favors they do to her. Now, we've been speaking about this and getting to get that it is not her alone at it, but there are some other people who are at it. We've been joined. Let's broaden this conversation by speaking to Dr. Stephen Shreme Echiahene. He is Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Now, we understand that this is quite something other people do, and this must be worrisome to the AIDS Commission, right?
Indeed, it is very worrying because we have quite a number of persons living with HIV who think that they did not, somebody gave the virus to them and they must as well give it to others. And so they do this deliberately. But the unfortunate aspect of it is that some who do this kind of thing are not virally suppressed. They do not adhere to treatment. And therefore, they put their partners at risk. And this is going on, and it is very worrying, especially when they deliberately, go about sleeping around, just wanting to see other people get infected. And that is unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and we have to deal with it.
Now, but we also understand that there's a law that should be used to get people who are doing that deliberately, to face the rigors of the law. Why is that law not being put to use?
Well, I think there have been a few cases in the country where persons who felt aggrieved that someone giving them HIV reported to the police, cases went to court. But the challenge has always been being able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed one got infected from the accused person or by the accused person. And so when you can, because it's a criminal case, and if in criminal jurisprudence you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt before your case can, have the desired outcome. And so this has always been the case, that people are not able to prove. But if anyone can prove, then obviously the law will deal with them.
So in this case where the woman has HIV, but is sleeping around with people, what can the law do? What can the commission do? Because you are interested in stemming the spread.
So what the commission does is when such cases come to us, we speak to the people who are doing that and dissuade them from doing that, encourage them to use condoms, at all times, and also, adhere to treatment and maintain their viral suppressed status if they are virally suppressed. And if they are not, then they need to adhere to treatment and become virally suppressed and maintain their viral suppressed status. Because that is the only way that they can protect that is one of the most potent ways of protecting their partners from HIV infection.
So once you know this woman, what's the commission going to do about it?
Well, I don't know the woman, but since the report has come out, we will, trace her and try to see what we can do to support her. In fact, some of them are they are in very difficult circumstances. And so they find it easier, making some money to look after themselves by doing sex work. And such people can easily be assisted by the Commission and its stakeholders. There are programs in country that support them. And so we will get in touch with her, through your reporter, and see what can be done for her. But I think the principle is that no one has the right to infect others with HIV.
Okay.
And so people who are doing that should stop doing that, because they are putting, individuals and the entire Ghanaian public at risk. And it is unacceptable. And so we should not, under any circumstance, condone any such misbehaviors.
Okay. Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. He is the Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission. Well, and that's how we wrap up the show for today. Thanks for being a part of us. And let me say hi to you, Ramson Atindogo. He is with AT and he's a supervisor in Ashaiman. He used to be my hallmate there. Thanks so much to all of you who watched. Let's meet again, God willing, tomorrow. Until then, please.